Across the Spider-Verse slaps so hard your brain will leave your body and all that's left will be the experience. Doesn't matter if you have a job, rent, or homework, this movie is gonna have you in a chokehold and it's gonna keep you there after you've left the theater. We knew this movie was gonna be good, but we were not prepared for it to actually live up to those expectations. This movie is in my top 2 Spider-Man films and its only competition is itself. The original Spider-Verse was so good it literally changed the industry, kicking off an entire era of stylization and experimentation that we haven't gotten in many major motion pictures. Just like the original though, Across proves not only is it a technical marvel, but manages to be a love letter to the Spider-Man mythos, with stellar comedy and character writing that manages to do it all while sacrificing nothing. I fucking loved it so much that I'm almost mad that I have to share it. But that's the grind we live in. Now this movie is pretty much perfect to me. Everything from the visuals to the writing, every part of this film is going off. So much so that I pretty much only have like 3 things I could barely call nitpicks. So let's get the dumb shit out of the way so we can get back to hyping it up. In fact, let's take those 3 things and cut it down to 2 since the first one is more of just a heads up than anything else. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is actually Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. That's right, for those who don't know, the sequel to the Spider-Verse kinda got crazy, and it was decided to break it up into 2 parts. So while the film does tell an incredibly powerful and satisfying story, don't go in expecting it to wrap up everything like the original. I knew that going in, so I was emotionally ready for it, but if you don't, this is your notice. Though that also leads to my only real critique of the film, and that this movie is long. It's 2 hours and 16 minutes, and you're never bored or tired, and never does it feel like it's wasting your time. It is really well paced. That said, it being half the story, the last 10-ish minutes do feel like the movie is tiptoeing around trying to find just the right cliffhanger to leave off on. They pick a great spot. The film very much ends on a to be continued, and if you're looking for something a bit more conclusive, I don't know what to tell you. Moving on to personal preference. That will probably ruin your opinion of me. The visuals for each dimension they visit is spectacular. While Spider-Verse did a good job of giving the B-Team Spider People a unique visual style, this time around we really get to see applied to each dimension, with it all blending together seamlessly, which is crazy since all of them take pretty big swings visually. From a Leonardo da Vinci rough sketch world to Mumbai, Manhattan, when this film goes for it, it nails it. That said, I'm a little broken inside. So the mood board that was Gwen's dimension kinda got me to giggle at times, as it's amazing how each shot will have unique lighting and background that changes between shots. But some of the cutbacks got me to giggle a little, and I can't explain why. These scenes are easily some of the best in the film. They are very powerful, but for some reason, it hit me weirdly, and those are really my only notes about the film. So let's go back to talking about what I liked, and starting with how this movie just continues to elevate Miles Morales.
Nah, I'ma do my own thing.
Miles is a character that has been the center of weird controversy for years. Despite not being the first alternate Spider-Man besides Peter, Miles has spent most of his existence being negged for plenty of bad faith reasons, having his existence questioned, picked apart, and treated as some anomaly in a medium where stranger shit happens weekly. So Across really tackles this identity crisis wonderfully, with the main crux of the movie being about how everyone is constantly telling Miles what his story is or should be, reflecting the real-world conflicts surrounding him and the classic teen troubles of trying to figure out who you want to be. Only this time with insane stakes. Yet the movie was able to take Miles and truly make him stand on his own. Hell, he's probably the best version of Spider-Man in this movie, refusing to stand aside when someone is in trouble, which is the most fundamental, the deepest core value of what it means to be Spider-Man, and no one in this film embodies it better than Miles, with it being his struggle to tell his own story that makes part 1 emotionally resonate even though the story isn't technically finished. As truly, everyone in this film won't shut the fuck up about where they think Miles should be in the mythos. From his parents to his villains to even Mr. Out-of-Pocket himself, Miguel O'Hara.
Idea what you're doing!
This dude truly needs to take the biggest chill pill in the world. Miles is fighting the Spot, he's fighting Miguel, he is fighting even the rules of reality. But through adversity, he refuses to buckle as we get to see what makes him truly a great Spider-Man. The original Spider-Verse was very much an origin story for Miles taking up the mantle. This, though, is where we truly get to see Miles define what it means to wear the mask. And it's that journey that makes this film work. We meet so many people, we go to so many places, but that through line is what keeps this movie feeling focused, where so many other films feel like they start to meander. And Miles isn't the only character elevated by this movie. Gwen honestly gets the biggest glow up for a character who didn't really need one. The movie opens setting up Gwen's personal struggles and really digging into her origin story, going from a brief summary to an actual tragedy that helps you understand where she is in her life and how it's quietly destroying all the relationships she has, while really putting into focus just how much she and Miles connect. So if you didn't ship them before this film, this one will definitely have you on board for them hooking up. It's a terrible idea in the comics, but here it really works. Also, whoever said that this film had a love triangle in it really needs to double check what a love triangle is, as that comment had me panicking, but trust me, it's not a problem. In fact, Spider-Punk, aka Hobie Brown, is a highlight. This character could have so easily come off as tryhard or pretentious, but instead the man is a delight, which I feel like you can say about all the new characters.
My name is Professor Prabhakar.
This dude is beyond charming, and he could honestly carry his own show. Jessica Drew is a little bit out of focus, but nails it every time she gets the spotlight. Miguel, like I said, is a massive prick, but you get just enough context to understand why he's like this. Although he does have a massive axe to grind with Miles, he gels well with the rest of the Spider cast, serving as a sour, overly intense leader of a bunch of wisecracking Spider people. Every Spider person is completely their own character. The main ones naturally get more style and attention, like Hobie's paper cutout and shifting color scheme. That's so cool. Also, the web shooters. They're all cool and such a great way to make each Spider person distinct, as this movie could have so easily just had all these characters feeling so samey, but they don't, even when there's a giant chase scene with them. Also, another MVP of this film, definitely Rio Morales, as she is definitely in the top 10 for best cartoon moms. The Morales family is just so wholesome, full of small moments to show that they love and care for each other, and just how incredibly frustrating it is to be a family. Also, the soundtrack for this film is going off. Might need to rewatch it a few more times, let the music try and unseat the old soundtrack in my head, but it has a fighting chance. And yes, the fights are insane. There are multiple extended action sequences that will leave you breathless without feeling tired, peppering in small enough breaks for you to breathe while enjoying the visual crack. Really, this film is a phenomena. It is an experience that I still feel like I need another month to fully process. If you haven't seen the film already, go check it out. If you have, see it again. This is my glowing endorsement, and now if you don't want spoilers, now's the time to get out.
And then I looked at my uncle and...
Let me guess. He died?
So the big thing about this film is that the Spider-Verse is built on canon, and that messing with certain events can lead to the universe collapsing. So in pursuit of the greater good, Miguel has formed a spider cult of people who have bought into the fatalistic perspective that they just have to let some people die to save the rest. This is the big break that sets Miles apart from everyone else, as they literally tell him, hey, your dad is gonna die, and we want you to just let it happen. Despite the fact that letting bad things happen is the tragedy that defines the Peter Parker end of the mythos. As while they have bought into the idea that this has to happen, Miles refuses to let anyone, not even fate, define who he is, which is the kind of big F you, I'm doing what's right energy that makes me love superheroes. Especially in the context of Miguel resenting Miles for being a supposed anomaly, claiming that if it wasn't for him and the alternate dimension Spider, then the original Peter wouldn't have died, meaning that the whole in reality would never have happened, which then triggered all the rest of the events of the Spider-Verse. And the thing that makes this interesting though, is when taking that idea and looking at Miguel, and you really just see the self-hatred come through and how it relates to Miles. As it does seem like the collider from the first movies will allow travel in the multiverse to really become a thing and to become a major part for everyone. And this is what led to Miguel giving into temptation to replace an alternate dead version of himself to be with his family. So when this led to the death of that universe, Miguel is devastated, while other spiders cope with humor, Miguel just has this blistering rage and this self-assigned borderline dictatorial role as a protector of the multiverse, going to increasing extremes to keep it all together. So all these things fraying on his nerves, the anger, the regret, the constant sense that the multiverse is just one mistake away from being wiped out, yeah, you can see why he's just a gigantic prick who hates Miles, even though Miles isn't really to blame for any of this. But he is the inciting incident that led to Miguel's own mistakes. Miguel is out of 100 and connects Miles with his own fuck up. So you get why he's being extra out of pocket. This all just helps set up why Miles is being the best Spider-Man in this movie. He's not an anomaly. He's not some accident. And this just makes Miles so fucking great, is that he's off doing his own thing. He's rejecting all this fails and, oh, we have to let this happen. And he's saying, no, I'm gonna fight the good fight. I'm going to do everything I can to stop this. As he's just not bought into this whole, everything needs to be canon bit. And again, we don't know for sure if these canon events are fully connected. Miguel is convinced they claim to have stopped other ones before, but how closely related the two are is still semi an open question. Also, the ending of us seeing Prowler Miles is so good. I actually guessed pretty early on that Miles is gonna get sent to the spider's original dimension, so it's kind of painful to watch him tell his secret to the wrong version of his mom, but setting Miles against a different version of himself, as it really does open up the opportunity for us to find out that this Miles was meant to be this universe's original Spider-Man. Especially since the flashback to the spider being taken actually shows us that it was right next to Prowler Miles, opening up the possibility for us to find out that this Miles was meant to be the original Spider-Man, proving that Miles wasn't an anomaly like Miguel claims. And things that are great, Spot, he's interesting, and I love him for that. He starts out as the perfect nuisance supervillain, self-obsessed blaming Spider-Man for his situation, but Spot has crafted this narrative in his head that they are fated rivals, so he finds Miles' lack of interest in him frustrating, leading him to do increasingly dumb shit to beat him. But it never feels like the story has Miles act out like too much of a jackass, that the situation is actually his fault. Spot is a prick who became a monster. And this all perfectly blends into Spot's role in the story, where he is the antagonist in the traditional sense. He is the person who sets the events in the movie in motion, but he's not the big, overarching villain. He's the thing that caused the more interesting personal drama to happen. The possibility of Miles' dad dying, Miles having to go up against the other spider people, the reveal of Miles' alleged nature in the multiverse. Spot is the ticking clock that pressures everyone else in the story to scramble to fix things, so it doesn't need him to be in the story all that much to drive it. Kinda similar to the Kingpin in the original, where his doomsday collider is what the heroes have to rush to stop, all while the real meat of the story is Miles' journey to becoming Spider-Man. Jason Schwartzman kills in this role. This man is way too good at this, and the animation really sells just how comical he is, only for that switch to flip, and then we realize he's actually a nightmare. And finally, I loved Gwen in this film. From her relationship to her dad falling apart to them reconciling, whilst uncovering the potential secret to saving Miles' dad, is as simple as his dad not taking the promotion. Gwen is in such a messed up place in this film, where she desperately wants to be with Miles, but knows all this baggage about him that she just doesn't know how to share, even though she wants to. Plus, getting those few moments to see her with her Peter before he died does wonders to sell just how she pushes everyone away, as she truly doesn't know how to tell her dad or tell really anybody about what she's dealing with, which explains why she initially sides with Miguel. As they are all spiders, they understand the struggle, but to side with Miles would mean getting kicked out of the group and going back to being alone, and worse, getting sent back home, with her learning to finally stop being afraid when she makes amends with her dad, or gathering up her true group of friends to go help Miles and save the day. Truly, this film is peak cinema. I loved every second of it, and while I was nervous that it wasn't going to live up to the hype, it was a banger that every person that worked on it deserves all the props in the world, as it really just continues to prove just how amazing animation is when the people behind it are allowed to go ham. It's gonna be hard to go back to regular animated films after this. But hey, any animated film in theaters is a win these days, so I'm happy. Thank you all for watching, like, share, and subscribe for some reason. Love you all, peace out.